Wilt Chamberlain is the most underrated player of all time. Now that's a topic for a different video, but in this video I want to show you why he is far and away the most underappreciated player of all time.
He thought, and rightfully so, that he was the greatest basketball player that ever lived.
I want you to picture this. The year is 1998. Michael Jordan has just won his 6th championship, is 6-0 in the NBA Finals, and there is not a single player to compare to him. Well, at least that's what you think. But the reality is, before Michael Jordan and LeBron was the debate, and before Kobe and Jordan was the debate, the true debate, and the debate that baffled people, the one that Jordan could not win no matter how hard he tried, was Wilt Chamberlain versus Michael Jordan.
Not close. There is no argument for Wilt compared to Michael Jordan.
Off Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Going from arguably being the greatest player of all time to not being mentioned in someone's top 10 is quite a leap. I'm going to show you when things started to change.
Because this afternoon, Wilton Norman Chamberlain, the most prolific player in NBA history, passed away. Hall of Famer was discovered by a longtime employee at his Bel Air, California home, and when authorities arrived slightly after noon Pacific time, he was pronounced dead. Chamberlain, who spent 14 years in the NBA and is considered by many to be the greatest player in the game's history, leaves a legacy larger than his 7'1" stature.
Wilt passing away was the event that led to the change in perspective of Wilt's legacy forever. No longer would he be praised for his accomplishments. The media members who watched Wilt and knew everything about him began to retire and were replaced by personalities who did not know anything about Wilt, nor did they care about his legend. All they knew was MJ and the raging and repeated debate of MJ and LeBron.
Talking about LeBron.
Hold on.
I'm talking about 52 years old, Father Time. Stop it.
I'm not going to stop it because I am.
It is understandable to compare the most famous basketball player ever to the current best player in the world, because whether we like it or not, ratings do matter. And that brings in ratings. But it wasn't the only thing they did. It is not like they just stopped talking about Wilt. Instead, they began to lie about him and his career. Now, I'll show you some examples and show you how inaccurate and deceptive they can be.
Wilt.
No. I'm not giving it to Wilt.
No, you guys are crazy.
I'm not giving it to Wilt.
No. You're not going to put Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged 50 points a game and scored 100 a game in 30 minutes.
Who was a foot taller than 99% of the league?
Yeah.
Now, I've always heard that Wilt Chamberlain's competition was inferior to the rest of the all-time greats. But is that true? It's a better question. And the answer is no, it couldn't be any further from the truth. Now, I went through and I have all the numbers here, and I'm going to share some factual information. But before I do, I need to address the height issue. See, many times I've heard that he was a foot taller than his competition. But is that true? Well, absolutely not. The average height of centers in the 60s was 6'10". The average height of centers today is 6'10". So the centers were pretty much the same height. Now, were they good though? Well, here's where it gets a little contrary to what they say. Because the reality is Wilt Chamberlain played the greatest competition in NBA history. I'm going to name 14 Hall of Famers. And then I'm going to tell you how many times he played them in the regular season and in the playoffs. Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Nate Thurman, Wes Unseld, Dave Cowens, Bob Lanier, Bob McAdoo, Elvin Hayes, Willis Reed, Zelmo Beatty, Walt Bellamy, Clyde Levette, Wayne Embry, Jerry Lucas. I just named 14 Hall of Fame centers that Wilt Chamberlain played throughout his career. Now here's some factual information, and I'll put it on the screen so it's easier to digest. But Wilt Chamberlain played 1,045 regular season games in his career. Out of those 1,045 games, 512 were against at least one Hall of Fame center. Now yes, that is 49% of all games he ever played in the regular season were against at least one Hall of Fame center. Now interesting enough, out of those 512 games, 103 of them were against two Hall of Fame centers because yes, they would team up. Now in the playoffs, it gets a little bit more ridiculous. Out of 160 playoff games that Wilt played, 122 were against a Hall of Fame center. Yes, that is 76% of all of Wilt's playoff games were against a Hall of Fame center. Now even more ridiculous is 29 of those playoff games were against two Hall of Fame centers.
But you look at Russell's performance with the championship on the line, Game 7s, it's unreal. He's clutch. And Wilt wasn't. Wilt wasn't clutch. In big moments in like Game 7, when you needed him to score, he would pass. If you needed him to pass, he would score. He was that kind of player. Look, that's the way, that's what wound up happening.
Those are facts.
I understand Wilt Chamberlain had games where he could have performed better, which could be said about anybody, but to claim that he did not show up is a bold-faced lie and incredibly dishonest. I'm going to share some statistics with you. You let me know what you think of them. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 31.1 points per game, 25.7 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game in 23 elimination games in his career. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 24.5 points per game, 27 rebounds per game, and 4.7 assists in 9 Game 7s in his career. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 29.9 points per game, 27.2 rebounds per game, and 4.1 assists per game in 11 deciding playoff games in his career. Not to mention, we have no idea the amount of blocks he averaged in the playoffs. The only available data points to a figure around 8.8 per game. See, context is a beautiful thing. One undeniable fact is that according to defensive rating, Wilt Chamberlain played by far the toughest defensive competition in NBA playoffs history. Now, even more ridiculous than that is the fact that out of the 160 games Wilt played in the playoffs, only 52 were played during his scoring years. And even more insane than that is that out of those 52 games, 38 of them were played against the greatest defensive team and player in NBA history, with the Boston Celtics and Bill Russell.
The NBA and the National Basketball Players Association announced at the top of the hour that they will honor the life and legacy of 11-time NBA champion and civil rights pioneer Bill Russell by permanently retiring his uniform number 6 throughout the league. Russell's jersey number, which he wore for his entire 13-season career from 1956 to 69, will not be issued again by any NBA team, making him the first player to have his number retired across the NBA.
See, when the legendary Bill Russell passed away, it wasn't like when Wilt passed away. There wasn't the gloominess of the 90s surrounding it. The NBA very quickly retired his jersey across the league, honoring the legacy of the legend. It was amazing to see the NBA do something for one of their greats, but on one end, it shined a dim light on the way the NBA reacted to the passing of Wilt Chamberlain. His jersey was not retired across the league, and the NBA has done a poor job showing the greatness of his legacy. Questions were asked. Was it because Wilt was not a civil rights leader like Bill Russell? Or maybe because his views were more conservative? Or is it possible that the NBA did not know what he had done for them?
When Wilt came into the league in 1959-60, there was only 2 players in the league that made $20,000, Bob Bennett and Bob Cousy. Wilt made over $75,000 his first year, and attendance in the NBA went up close to 30%.
Wilt Chamberlain did everything for the league. When the NBA needed help the most, when the NBA was on the verge of closing its doors, Wilt saved it. As a rookie, he brought the attendance in the NBA up by 30%. He made all the players more money, but was never praised for it. He did what Bird and Magic did, but no one mentions it. Sometimes the silly GOAT debate is simply silly, but other times, a player's legacy may be destroyed when he is targeted.
Nobody has ever come up with a remedy for the sky.